Do you feel guilty about what you've done in your past? I mean, what you've drank in your past, about your alcohol use in your past? Do you feel guilty about what you've said in the past, or some of your actions or stuff like that? Let's have a walk. I'm Kevin O'Hara for Alcohol Mastery, and today I wanted to talk about just that thing about guilt. There's a lot of people that feel heavily guilty about some of the stuff that they've done in the past while they were under the influence, and feel guilty about their drinking in general, just the fact that they have been drinking in general. I mean, I had this for a long time about my own drinking, my own role in my son taking up the alcohol, all that kind of stuff. There's a big guilty complex behind it, a big complex guilt associated with it. I just want to say that most of it is, you don't have to feel guilty about it. It's not in your best interest to feel guilty about it, for a start. But there's two types of guilt, as far as I'm concerned, right? There is the guilt where you're feeling guilty about something that you were ignorant of, you're not complicit in. And then there's the guilt where you know exactly what you're doing and you still do it anyway. Let's take an example of somebody who is walking through a house and they knock a plate off a countertop by accident, and smash a plate, and somebody said, "Yeah, geez, that was one of my favourite plates, and you broke it," and blah blah, lays all the guilt trip on you, and then you're feeling guilty about it. That's non-complicit. I mean, you didn't mean to do it, and there shouldn't be really any guilt in it. It was an accident. And then there's the type of guilt where that somebody likes a certain thing. Say they like this certain plate. They were given the plate by their parents. There's all these cobwebs today. It's very early in the morning. It's just after 8. And I'm probably the first one down these tracks, so there's all little cobwebs coming off the trees, tiny little flimsy things, but they get into your face and it's tickly. Anyway, the second type of guilt is where you have this, you get the plate and you know that it's a favourite plate and you deliberately take it and you smash it, right? Then you're complicit in your own actions and you should feel bloody guilty about it, because it was your fault. It's the same thing as alcohol. A lot of us were brought up, most of us were brought up in societies. All of us were raised in societies that you have alcohol as a part of your upbringing, is a part of your everyday life as you're growing up, and you learn how to drink alcohol through your parents, the peers, their friends, your friends as you're growing up, your parents' parents, their parents, and going backwards in generations, And this was just a thing that was done. I mean, don't forget that although you can see the effects of taking a lot of drink, I mean, it doesn't take an Einstein to work out that if somebody drinks a lot, then there's going to be damage, right? So I presume that there was always this knowledge that a lot of alcohol was bad for you, right? Throughout I didn't take history, I didn't take science historically to know that when you drank a lot of alcohol, then you were causing yourself a lot of problems, right? And I'm sure that back in the old days, back for hundreds of years, if you were living in smaller communities and you were drinking too much, you were told about it, And if you didn't stop, I'd say you were going to get kicked out of your village, So there was those kind of restraints in smaller villages. But when society goes onto a larger scale that we have now, there can never be those kinds of restraints, because you can live in a large community with relative anonymity. You don't have to mix with people, you don't have to tell people what you're doing, they don't have to know what you're doing, because your friends might be on the other side of town, your work might be on the other side of town. So what you do when you go home at night is basically going to be your best kept secret. I mean, of course, people will see the end result, they'll see the consequences of your drinking, but they won't see the actual drinking. They won't know the extent of your drinking. And I think that is a big problem. It's one of these things that differentiates, that people try and use to differentiate themselves and their own drinking from other people's drinking. Now, I have a couple of videos coming up. I don't know if but the way I put these videos up, whether they're going to come up before or afterwards, but I've one coming up on just alcohol use. What have I got them coming up on? It's just gone out of my head now. I've one coming up, let me think about this. Hold on, I'll pause it for a sec. Right, I've got one coming up on people being hiding their own alcohol use behind calling somebody else an alcoholic, right? That's part of the big problem. And I think that there's a lot more people that are doing that than first meets the eye. I have another one coming up where I talk about drugs in general and should drugs be legal. And I think that's important to understand as well. From my point of view, I'll give you my point of view. Whether it's yours or not, it's a different story. Anyway, the guilt of starting out when you're not complicit in your own guilt, when you've been doing something all your life and you didn't know it was wrong, you're just going with what everyone else is doing. How can you be blamed for that? How can you hold yourself responsible for that? How can you, people beat themselves up with this type of guilt before, the guilt that they've had before they knew what they were doing, right? This is, it's the same thing that goes on with people who are smoking. They smoke when they're young because they want to appear tough, and they don't know the consequences of it. They don't listen to the consequences. Same with fast food. People eat a lot of fast food, and it's only when the consequences start happening to them that they start changing what they're doing, changing their eating patterns. They start reading into it and getting more information, and once they get more information, then they know what's happening. And it's that knowing what's happening, right? It's that understanding. Once you have that understanding about your drinking, your smoking, your diet, once you understand what's going on and you still keep doing it, that's a different type of a guilt. That's something that you are complicit in. You know what's going on and you're still hiding it from yourself. So, take from this as you want. It's meant in the best sense of don't be feeling guilty about the things that you've done in the past. You can't help a lot of the stuff because you didn't know what was going on, right? In a lot of cases they say that ignorance is no defense, but this is not a law court. This is human life, and when you didn't know something, then there's no real point in feeling guilty about it, because the guilt is going to do you no good. The guilt is only going to hold you back, and that's one of the things that you don't want, is something that's keeping you back from the life that you want. I mean, my whole philosophy about this is to leave the alcohol behind you as much as possible, right? Turn your back on the alcohol and move forward into your new life, and have that goal up front so that you know where you're going, you know what you're aiming for. That's the big problem with AA that I see, and I'm not castigating AA. I know I keep going on about AA, but they keep focusing on the problem, right? And it's what you focus on most of the time. That's where you're going to be, right? That's where you're going to stay. That's where you're going to go. So, I mean, for me, I don't think that focusing on the alcohol is any way going to cure anything. You know, it's just going to keep people in that loop, back in that prison. It's like they've got an elastic band on them that's holding them back from real life. So, anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Just let me know what you think of the video, and come on over to the website. There's a lot of stuff happening these days. There's the newsletter, which I post out a couple of times a week. There's always offers for the courses that I run on the site. If you come over to the website as well, you'll be able to download the audio for all of the podcasts, so you can listen to them wherever you want. And until next week, until next time, probably tomorrow, I'm Kevin O'Hara for Alcohol Mastery. Onwards and upwards. Good luck.